Hey guys, Zack here, and welcome back to another action figure review. I know it has been a decently long time, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Bandai movie monster series Godzilla 1971. Now, this version of Godzilla comes from the 1971 film Godzilla vs. Hedorah. This suit first appeared in Destroy All Monsters, but this specific figure is labeled as 71, so we're going to go with that. And I just think the naming convention with this suit in particular recently, I think is really interesting because this guy is labeled as 1971. Last year we got, this design, and that was labeled as Godzilla 1972. And also last year we got a set of Gashapon figures that was based on, Destroy All Monsters, and they labeled that Godzilla suit as Godzilla 1968. So I really like the naming convention here. I think it's interesting. I just think it's interesting. I wasn't complaining about it, Rob.
Are you misaligned with the naming conventions of a Godzilla 1971 where it looks like a 68? Because that was a thing.
But I digress. Anyway, as far as my thoughts on Godzilla vs. Hedorah goes, I really like it. It's definitely one of the more standout movies in at least the Showa era of Godzilla movies. You can definitely tell it was made in the 70s because there's a lot of psychedelic imagery, and the music too is also just very I don't want to say jazzy, but very 70s-ish, if that's a thing. So, and I just think that leads to a lot of interesting visuals and a lot of interesting audio that we haven't really gotten in Godzilla, at least at that point. So, yeah. Plus, it's my coworker's favorite Godzilla movie of all time, so there's that going for it as well. But still, Godzilla vs. Hedorah, I like. It's, again, it's not my favorite in the Showa era, but still, on its own, I still think it's a very solid movie. It's definitely an interesting movie, but I digress. At this point, I don't have anything else to say, so let's just get into it. Like usual, to start, we'll take a look at the tag, and before I talk about that, you might notice this section here is ripped, and because usually it's not ripped and there's the plastic tag dangling off it right here. The reason why, I'll just say it, I did not have a good day when this guy came in the mail, so when I was taking off his tag, I kind of rushed it, and I was a little reckless, and I ripped it. I'll take the L on this one, because, yeah, I messed up, but I digress. Anyway, for the front here, we have a pretty blurry picture of Godzilla from Godzilla vs. Hedorah. It looks okay still, but, it's just weirdly fuzzy, but I digress. Anyway, Godzilla 1971. Godzilla is both in Japanese and in English here. Godzilla 2025. On the back, we have a silhouette of Godzilla's dorsal plates, Godzilla vs. Hedorah, movie monster series, Bandai Namco 3, and some more legal information down here. For the inside of the tag here, we can see we have mostly just legal information, and we have a little bit of a bio here. I don't know what that says, but that is a little bit of a description of Godzilla from Godzilla vs. Hedorah. So, yeah. That's pretty much it for the tag. Now, going back to the figure itself, to start, we'll take a look at the paint. And the painting on this figure is pretty solid. This figure is actually a repaint / slight remold of an already existing figure. The original Bandai movie monster series Godzilla 1968, as that figure was labeled as. Again, I just think it's neat. I don't have a problem with it, I just think it's neat. But, yeah, so this is a, repaint / slight retool of that figure, and there are some very noticeable differences. For example, this figure here, the entirety of this figure, is casted in this charcoal gray, which I think looks really nice, but I do prefer the jet black coloration of the original. The original figure also had highlights on the knees and on the torso here, which I just think look nicer as well. And this doesn't look bad. As is, this looks good. I like this, but I just like the original more. The toenails here are going to be painted white, as well as the fingernails. The dorsal plates here are also going to be painted white, and they are going to end about there, as far as the paint goes. If the SH Monster Arts figure is anything to go by, I do believe that's film accurate, but I could be wrong. Going to the head here, we can see that the eyes are painted white with black pupils. And one thing to point out, when I first got this figure in the mail, there were a lot of paint defects. There's like a weird white like splotch on his eyebrow here. There's like a little bit of red on his face. And even like still, like there's some spots that I couldn't really get off entirely. Like, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but there are like little white specks like on the lower lip here that I wasn't able to get off. And in case you're curious, if you do get this figure and there are like, a lot of like, paint defects like that, use rubbing alcohol. Be careful, you don't want to rub off like the paint on like the eyes or anything like that, but like if you have a paint defect that's like on the brow, rubbing alcohol is the way to go. Like I just rubbed a little bit of rubbing alcohol and now he looks great. So yeah, just want to give that disclaimer. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the eyes. Now, this is actually another difference compared to the original figure that I actually prefer here. The original figure, the lips were actually painted pink, and it looked really weird and kind of looked like blackface, and I'm not a big fan of that, how that looks, but on this figure, the lips aren't painted, The only paint in the mouth is going to be the teeth that are painted a whitish coloration, and the inside of the mouth here is going to be painted this like reddish coloration, which I think looks really nice. But yeah, without the painting on the lips here, this just looks really nice. It looks, close to how he looked in the movie, and it just looks great. I'm happy with this. So yeah. Anyway, that's pretty much it for the painting on this figure. And overall, the painting is solid. I too prefer like the darker coloration of the original figure. And like the highlights throughout, I think look nicer. But as far as this figure goes, I like it. It looks good. The painting here, I'd say definitely gets a pass. Now, we'll take a look at the articulation. And the articulation on this figure, I mean, the arms can move 360. So there's not really much to say there. This figure can kick forward about... forward about that far. And he can kick back about that far. And that goes for the other leg as well. Assuming that it doesn't pop off. So, see, like that, and like that. And that's pretty much it for the articulation on this figure. And it's a movie Monster Series figure. What else do I need to say? It gets a pass. Now, we'll take a look at the sculpt. And first of all, early on in the video, I said that this figure was a repaint / slight remold of an already existing figure. And the reason why I say a, slight remold is because these arms are actually new. The original figure, the arms were more like spread out, but here they're just more like, the traditional Godzilla stance. And again, I kind of like this more, I'm not going to lie. Plus, when Godzilla fires his atomic breath, he usually does it, in this specific pose. So I think the new arms are a change for the better. But anyway, as far as like the rest of the figure goes, for the most part, I think this is pretty much perfect. I think this is pretty much almost one-to-one to how he looked in Godzilla vs. Hedorah and Destroy All Monsters in Godzilla vs. Gigan. But anyway, for the most part, this is a really nice looking sculpt. But, and this is a minor thing, this does not take away from the figure whatsoever. This one dorsal plate is just comically flattened. Now, I don't know why this happened, but it's just sort of flat, and it does look a little weird. But, again, not the end of the world, just a slight little thing that I've noticed. And for the most part, like I said, I do think that the sculpting on this figure looks very nice. So, the sculpting here, I'd say gets a pass. Now, we'll take a look at the detailing. And the detailing on this figure, I think, looks very good. So, let's take a closer look. So, starting off at the head here, we can see all the detailing on his face here, like his nose here and his brows are detailed very nicely. All the little, like, bumps and everything are detailed very nicely. Everything is just really nicely defined. And then, as we get down to the neck here, we get that traditional Showa era, almost fur-like scaling here. And I think it looks great. It looks very consistent. And all, like, the wrinkles and like folds in the skin and everything just really give off that like guy in a suit feel. And I think that, looks really nice here, like in the torso here, you can see it the most. Again, just a lot more scaling like in the arms here. That looks really nice. And then the hands start to smooth out a little bit. The legs here, again, just a lot of really nice scaling. And again, all of the creases and like little wrinkles and everything just, again, looks like a guy in a suit. And I like that. I do like how, they're not like, they're trying to be accurate to the suit to give off that suit feel. A lot of these like movie monster series and honestly, a lot of Godzilla figures, like in general, try to pull this off. And I really like that. And this figure is no exception, right? So again, just more of that scaling throughout the tail here. And just more creases and everything. Everything here just looks really nice. We have a little bit of detailing underneath the tail, which also looks really nice. Some information here, in case you're curious, under the feet. And lastly, the dorsal plates here are going to have some nice detailing here as well. All the little bumps and everything look very nice. Even on this weirdly flat dorsal plate, all of the little bumps here are detailed very nicely. And that's pretty much it for the detailing on this figure. And overall, I think the detailing here looks really nice. So the detailing, I'd say definitely gets a pass. Now, we'll do some size comparisons. To start, here we have the Bandai Movie Monster Series Hedorah. And I think these two scale decently next to each other. It's not 1-to-1, but they still look good. They look presentable, and I'm okay with that. These two look great together. Like I mentioned, I do not have the original figure that this guy is based on, but I do have this Bandai creation, Godzilla 1968. This is the one I had when I was a kid. Here we have the SH Monster Arts, Godzilla 1972. And of course, here we have some hand sanitizer. And here we have Dr. Billy Grant. So at the end of the day, should you get this figure? Yes, I really like this figure. I think the paint, while I like most of the coloration on the original figure more, I do think that, the painting here still looks nice. I think the sculpting is really nice. I think the detailing is great, The articulation, there's not really a whole lot to say there, but overall, this is a very nice figure, and I do recommend that you pick it up. If I can give one warning, just be careful. This guy might have some paint blemishes on him, some paint defects. They might vary, but I have seen other people get this figure, in the mail, and, the paint quality isn't the best. As far as, like, the paint blemishes go, like, still, like, white specks all over the figure and everything like that. So just do be mindful of that. Maybe I was just unlucky. Maybe I just got hit particularly bad. So I'm sure if you got this figure, I'm sure you would have better luck than me, but I digress. Like, it's still a really nice figure, and I do recommend that you pick it up, but just keep that in mind when you're buying this figure. But speaking of which, as far as price tags go, this figure is about, before shipping, is about $25 to $26, which I think is a pretty fair price, You do have to pay an extra, like, $20, $25 for shipping, depending on which method you use, but still, price-wise, it's not terrible. I know there are some US retailers that are selling this guy for about $30, which, I mean, if you want to go that way and, like, not have to pay extra for shipping, then go right ahead. I got this guy from Hobby Link Japan, where I got him for $25, $26, but paid extra for shipping because, I just wanted this guy really quickly, and yeah. So, that's what I went with, but if you want to wait and buy this guy from a US retailer, then I'd say go that route. But if you're impatient like me, pay the extra amount of money, whatever shipping method you use, and just go with Hobby Link Japan, or AmiAmi, or what other proxy shop there are that sells this guy. But still, if you want this figure, get it. I really like it. That being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you in the next video. Peace, Zack out.